all came due at once. Within 60 days, she was virtually broke. What I discovered is that she grew up dirt poor, and she watched her parents age in poverty. And with a few more questions, I realized that her husband's money blueprint was set for decent success. But her money blueprint was set for dead broke, which is exactly what was happening. Thank goodness we were able to reset her blueprint and move her into a brand new direction. The good news is you can actually change your money blueprint. By the way, you've already started by acknowledging you have a money blueprint and by making the declarations you're learning today. Just so you know, money isn't the only blueprint that you've got. You've also got a relationship blueprint, a health blueprint, and even a happiness blueprint already ingrained in your subconscious mind. So, let's talk about how your blueprint is formed. The blueprint is formed primarily based on the programming you received in the past, especially as a young child. Help me out here. Who are some of the primary sources of this information? Parents, good. Who else? Authority figures, siblings. Who else?
Teachers.
Yes, teachers, religious leaders, media, culture, friends. Thank you. Take culture. Isn't it true that certain cultures have a certain way of thinking and dealing with money? Yes?
Yes.
And that other cultures have a completely different way of thinking and dealing with money? Yes?
Yes.
And let me ask you a question. Does the child come out of the womb doing money that way, or were they taught how to do money? Thank you. The fact is, we were all taught how to do money. And the issue is that most of us were taught by people who either didn't have a lot of money or they had a lot of emotional issues around it. And their ways of thinking became our ways of thinking. All right, let's talk about how we're conditioned. 3 primary methods of conditioning. There's verbal programming, there's modeling, and there's specific incidents. Verbal programming. That's all about what did you hear when you were young? What messages did you get? Modeling. That's all about what did you see when you were young? And specific incidents. What did you experience when you were young around money, success, wealth, and rich people? Let's start with verbal programming. What were the phrases or messages that you heard about money and success and rich people when you were growing up? Raise your hand and let me know if you heard this one. Money is the root of all evil. Excellent. We got one there. Rich people are greedy. You have to work hard to make money. That's a really popular one. You can't be rich and spiritual. Excellent. Money doesn't buy happiness. Money doesn't bring love. How about this one? Money doesn't grow on trees. And I suppose nobody but me ever heard this one. We can't afford it. Excellent. Want to hear my father's favorite? Anytime I asked him for anything, he'd snarl at me, go, hey, what am I, making money? I used to joke around with him. I say, I wish. I'll take an arm, a leg. I'll take a baby finger, Dad. He never laughed once. Anyway, in addition to the generic messages that we heard, we also heard about stereotype messages. For example, if you're a man, maybe the message that you somehow got was that your job in life is to be a provider. And if you're not financially successful, you're not a real man. Now, whether you became financially successful or not, how has it felt to have that pressure on you? What have you missed out of in your life? Your family, your fun, your inner peace, because of the stress of what you were conditioned to believe about putting bread on the table. And yet, this is simply a blueprint you've been running. With the lessons you're learning in this program, it can change. In my experience, when you've got money handled, it positively affects every other part of your life. How many of you would agree? Now, excellent. So maybe the message you got was, you don't need a lot of money because when you retire, the government is going to take care of you. You know what? Let me say this. Maybe that made some sense in the past, but as most of us know, the government is almost bankrupt, and I suspect that it won't be long before the Social Security bin is bankrupt too. Then what are you going to do? Newsflash, trusting your financial life to someone else is not a strategy for wealth. So, here's a wealth step that will help you change your money blueprint. Are you ready? First, it's important for you to know that all change begins with awareness. Very difficult to change something unless you know that it exists. I want you to take a piece of paper, and I want you to create a T-chart. Let me show you what that's going to look like. A T-chart looks like this. And I'm going to ask you to write down on this side all of the non-supportive statements you heard or the messages you got about wealth and money and rich people when you were young. All the ones that are non-supportive, I want you to write on this side. Yes? Yeah. And then for each one of those, I want you to write a much more empowering point of view. Now, I'm not saying that this is your point of view today. It may or may not be. But objectively, a much more empowering point of view. Let's see if we have some examples over here. Here's a good example. Rich people are what? Greedy. And we can change that to rich people are generous. Here's another one. It takes money to make money. Let's change that to it takes creativity to make money. By the way, just so you know, talk about creativity, people go, that's not true. It takes money to make money. Really? How many hundreds? No. Let's make that thousands. No. Let's make that tens of thousands of people have come to this wonderful country, immigrants. They came with nothing. And in a few years, they're fairly rich. Yes or yes? Yes. They didn't have money. They didn't have anything. It takes what? Creativity to make money. And the next one goes, I'm too old to make a change. And we can change that to, I'm never too old to learn. Now, after you do this, what I want you to do is I want you to read the positive statements out loud 3 times each every single day. For how long? Until you're rich. Again, words have power. Words have what? Power. And these declarations will eventually become saturated into the neurological pathways of your mind. And all of a sudden, you will find yourself making new decisions, and with new choices come new results. All right, well, let's talk about modeling. Question. What were your parents or guardians like in the arena of money when you were growing up? Did one or both of them manage money well, or did they mismanage money? Were they spenders, or were they savers? Were they shrewd investors, or were they non-investors? Let me ask you this. Did money come fairly easily in your household, or was it always a struggle? Let me ask you this one. Was money a source of joy in your home too, or was it a source of bitter arguments? Why are we talking about this? Why is it important? Well, how many of you ever heard the saying, monkey see, monkey do? And of course, humans aren't far behind. So generally, we will tend to be exactly like one or a combination of both of our parents in the arena of money, unless we go exactly the opposite. Now, why would someone go the opposite? Anger. That's right. Well, it depends on how angry you were at them. By the way, if you're a baby boomer or a senior, one of the simplest reasons you may not be reaching your full financial potential is that your parents or even yourself went through the Great Depression. In which case, because there was never enough, you might be a saver or even a hoarder and overly cautious, meaning you probably don't take advantage of excellent opportunities when they come your way. Or you could have gone the opposite route and became a spender. Why? Because maybe the attitude was, hey, it's going to go anyways, we might as well blow it and have a good time. Of course, neither of these money blueprints work. And this modeling could actually be the main reason you've never reached your full financial potential. Next, let's talk about specific incidents and how a single experience can determine your entire financial life. This next story comes from another seminar attendee. She told me the story that when she was 8 years old, she would hear the clanging of the ice cream truck coming down to the street. She would run to her mom and ask her mom for a quarter. And her mom would say, sorry dear, I don't have any money. Go ask Dad. Dad's got all the money. She'd run over to Dad. She'd go get her quarter. She'd go to get her ice cream. She was a happy camper. Next week, she'd hear the clanging of the ice cream truck come down the street. She would run to her mom and ask her mom for a quarter, and her mom would say, help me out here now. Sorry, dear, I don't have any what? Money. Go ask your dad. Dad's got all the money. She'd run on over to Dad. She'd go get her quarter. She'd go get her ice cream. She was a happy camper. Question, what did she learn about money? Yeah, first, that men have all the money. So when she first got married, what do you think she expected of her husband? Yeah, it wasn't quarters anymore.